Okay, so today we're going to retouch on a topic that we covered a little bit but didn't really go into detail a lot of skinning, the skinning process for a simplified mesh. So this mesh, like I was saying earlier, he's really good for learning how to skin because he's simplified. A lot of his edge loops are straight and vertical and horizontal, which is really good. And also he has some extra edge loops around his joints, which is really good. That'll allow us to deform really easily. Get some really good deformation and stuff. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is set up my joints, right? So we've done this before. So I'm just go ahead and start the joint process. And to do that, what I'm going to do is start off in my front view here. And let's turn on X-ray joint so I can see my joints. It's a little button up here. And then, and then I want to change to my rigging menu, rigging preset, and I also want to be in the rigging shelf. So I go and say create joints. And so the first joint I want to make is my root joint, right? So if I hold the X key on my keyboard and I click somewhere around the origin, it'll create a joint at 0, 0, 0, which is exactly what I want. Next, I want to go up to a center of gravity, which is somewhere around here. And now I also want to turn on wireframe on mesh. So if I turn on wireframe on shaded on here, now I can see his wireframe as he's being shaded. And that makes it a little bit easier to tell where his lines are. And so his center of gravity is somewhere around here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold the X key as I'm doing this. And just go click somewhere around this area. So I'm going to click here. So that's his center of gravity. And then next I'm going to create the spine. So I'm going to create one here, another one here, and another one here. So that's the spine. I'm going to create a neck joint here. And then another head joint somewhere here. Okay, so I'm going to move down his center of gravity a little bit. So if I select it, and hold the D key, I can move it down without affecting the other joints. And I'm going to try and recenter these a little bit. So I'm going to hold the D key and move those down just slightly. Like that. And then move this one up slightly. Like that. I'm just trying to make sure that the distance between these joints are about equal. Now, that's just for the spine and the center of gravity. The distance between the chest, or spine 3, and the neck can be any distance. But the distance between spine 3 and spine 2, or spine 1 and spine 2, or the center of gravity and spine 1 should be about equal. So I'm going to make sure that just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be exactly precise, but close enough. Yeah. Yeah, so there's just one joint on the head and one joint in the neck. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll get the arms in. So let's go back to create joints. Go to my create joint tool. I'm going to hold the X key again. I'm just going to click somewhere around here. That's his shoulder. And then I'm going to turn back on wireframe so I can see where his elbow is, which is around here. So I'm going to hold X, click around there. And then I'm going to hold X again, click around here on his wrist. And then this is where I might want to change my camera angle so I can see. So I'm going to change it to this angle. And so let's turn back on wireframe with shaded. Okay, now this is where I want to try to reposition these joints to make them fit on his mesh. So I'm going to move the elbow joint to be the center here. So I'm going to hold the D key and move that over and reposition it to where it's somewhere around his elbow. I'm going to take his wrist. And move it to where his wrist should be. Somewhere around there. You have to use the move tool. Okay, so then let's go to another view. Let's go to this view. Okay, and I'm going to turn on wireframe here so I can see. And I'm just going to move his shoulder to where it's inside of his shoulder. So I'm going to hold the D key again and move his shoulder to be in the middle of his shoulder, like that. Now keep in mind this is on this side of the mesh. So now you see his joints for his arm should be in the center of his arm mesh. They should cut through the center point of the mesh through that cylinder that creates his arm. Does that make sense? So the line between this joint and his elbow should be about through the center of the cylinder that makes up his arm. And the same thing goes for the joint between his elbow and his wrist. That line, that vector, should cut through the center, or give or take, through the cylinder that makes up his forearm. So once we have that, what we can do is we can now connect his shoulder with his spine 3. And we do that by reparenting like we did before. So I'm going to hold middle mouse, click and drag this joint structure onto joint 5 here. And so now I should have a line that connects joint or spine 3 or joint 5 specifically to joint 8, which is his shoulder. So now I should have a character that looks like this. Next, what I'm going to do is, you see his spine is straight through him. That's not right. So how do we fix that? We're going to go through and reposition all these joints, minus the ones that we just did, to where they follow the curvature of his back. And so it's this one, or you press 4 on your keyboard, 5 for shaded, 6 for textured. Yeah. So I'm going to go hit 4 on my keyboard and go wireframe. So then I'm going to hold the D key and reposition this joint, center of gravity, to be about there. This one, I'm going to reposition to be about here. This one is going to be about there. And then finally this one is going to be about there. And his neck will be in the center of his neck. His head doesn't really matter for this example, but later if you do another mesh that you have like mouth controls and stuff, you're going to want to position his head joint somewhere in the center here, and then you'll add other joints to that If we have time, we'll cover a head joint system. Yeah, I'm recording this. Yeah. Yes, it does. Okay, so this is what we have so far? Okay. So I'm trying to make it to where kind of like a spine shape. If you're familiar with anatomy, human anatomy, you know that the spine kind of has a curvature to it.
No, it does.
So if I go back to wireframe, this might be a little easier to see, like that. Bless you. Okay, so from here, we're going to do his leg on this side. So first off, we're going to get his hip placement. So I'll create a joint somewhere around his hip area, which would be about here. And then we're going to create another joint on his knee here. And then another joint on his ankle here. And so we have the front placement, but now we need the side placement. And so let's move this joint to where it fits perfectly within the space. And so back on wireframe mode, I'm going to move this joint to be about the same position as his center of gravity, but maybe slightly down. Slightly down from that. Then I'm going to move his knee joint to be in the center of his knee. And I'm going to move his ankle to be around the center of his ankle. Like that. Actually, I'm going to get it more on the bend here. Yeah, I just use the move tool, and then I hold D key to move joints independently of their children. So now what I should have is something like that. Something that looks like that. So let's move this one just slightly over. Okay, so now we have his leg. Now, there are some omissions, like we could do his hand next. And we could do his toes. So let's do his hand. But before we do that, let's reparent his leg. So if we take center of gravity here is joint 2. His leg is joint 11. So I'm going to middle mouse click and drag that onto joint 2. And so now you should see a connection between his center of gravity and his leg. Okay, so now let's do his hand. Let's go to create joint tool. Now for hands, you want a center joint in the middle of his palm. And then from there, you want to branch out to the different fingers. So let's create his joint in the middle of his hand here. So around there. So then let's create his thumb. So let's create a joint here. Another one. And then another one. Now this right. So this hand is a little weird because it's bent. So we're just going to have to make do with what we have. Yeah. Sorry, repeat that? Are you on X-ray?
Do you want us to have the little joint for all of the fingers, or just the?
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we see these joints. Okay, so I'm gonna move. Okay, so let's get his joint here. Like I said, this joint is, or this finger placement is really weird because how it was made, but it's a free mesh, so I'm not going to complain too much. Okay, so I just want to kind of line these up to where they match up. Now, the important part is we have a joint here at the tip of his finger, and one joint per each bend on his finger, and then one joint in the middle of his hand like that. So then now, from the top view, I'm going to try and reposition this to where it matches the center. Somewhere around there. Get it working. That's close enough, I think. Let's check the side view. Yeah. Let's check the perspective view, because that always, you're always having issues with not understanding how a mesh is being deformed. Check its. Okay, so he has an extra joint in here on his finger.
A little nubbin joint?
So his alien, he has 1, 2, 3, or actually 1, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 joints position. So we have 3 here. So we have to create a new joint in the middle here. And so what we could do is we could use the insert joint tool. I think if we go, yeah, up here to skeleton, if we go insert joints, we can click. I thought you could, maybe not. Actually, okay. The simplest way to do it is just create a new joint here. Why can't I create joints? Little technical difficulty here. Can't create a new joint. There it goes. Okay. So let's get rid of that one. Let's go back to skeleton, insert joints. Now I'm just going to create one there. Okay, there we go. Cool. So then now, okay, cool. And so now I'm going to move this joint to where it matches with this bend here. So I'm going to move that over there and try to make it in the center.
So then you want us to do that for all of the fingers?
Yeah.
Do you, so for each one, do we have the, do we make the center joint again, or do we just make the finger and then attach it?
Yeah, you make the, okay, so yeah, we're going to do the next finger and then we'll cover that. So yeah, you have the center joint here for the hand. And so we create a new finger. What you're going to do is just go to create joints. We're going to create a joint there. It's easier just to do it in another view, but okay, so yeah, if we create a joint, move it into position, let's go to our side view. Top view. Yeah. Okay, then we're gonna use the so let's create 1, 2, 3. And for this one, we're gonna move it like that. Okay, and then let's reposition these to where they match. Oh, 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. A normal human hand would only have 3. But because this alien has an extra joint in his hand, he has 4.
Where's the extra joint in his finger?
Yeah, there's... Well, there's the original connection point.
Yeah, and then I'm only seeing the last two over here.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. You always have an in joint.
So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
So there's 4 in the human.
right.
What
That's-
is it? He has 4.
Yeah, because he's an alien.
We have 4.
But that's,
No, we
the
didn't
same
get
number, that's the same number of joints that we would have, though.
Oh, wait, yeah, I think... No, it was on his thumb that he had the... Wait, hold on, what?
No, because you
Weird
see
thumb.
how he has this part and then this part. And
That's
then
for the
this
nail.
part, and then
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. My bad. So, if you're having trouble making joints and getting it to snap to the mesh, and it's like at his feet, what you can do is you can hold the V key and that'll snap to vertices. So that might be a little easier. So let's first reposition this finger till we get everything lined up right. So we'll try and get it to line up right. So let's do that one. Let's move this one over. Let's move this one down like that. Okay, and then this view, this one needs to go over slightly this way. This one needs to come back a little bit. And then this one needs to go over slightly like that. Okay, now this joint is pretty much located where I want it to be. Okay, so when creating new joints, if I hold the V key, it'll snap to a vertex. And so you see how it snapped directly to that point. And so if I turn on wireframe, you can see it snap directly to that point there. And so let me add the other joints in. I'm gonna also hold the V key while doing it so that it snaps to the surface. Now another thing here is you see how if I don't have anything selected and I hold the V key and click, it creates a joint that's independent. Well, I don't want to do that. If I go to my outliner here and select this joint, and then if I add a joint after that using the create joint tool, it'll give it a connection. And so that's what we want. So let's do that.
How do you make the little ball in the joint?
And then let's do that. See, another thing is I'm going to make sure that this point here lines up with that point. Make sure that this point, this joint lines up with this point on his finger. Okay, so then now I want to reposition these finger joints to where they're inside of his finger. So let's go to our view here. Let's move this joint over. This joint, let's move it over like that. Let's go to our top view so we can see. Let's move this joint in. This joint, let's move it over here. This joint, let's move it slightly this way. Okay, let's go to this view. And it's just, the workflow really is just a lot of back and forth between views. Make sure that you're lined up correctly. So let's turn on wireframe so I can see. Actually, I'm going to turn on wireframe was shaded so I can see a little bit better. Okay, let's get that. Yeah, I think that's about right. Okay, this one, let's move it down like that. Okay, so this finger is pretty much done. Let's get down just a little bit. Okay, so we have one more finger left. Okay, and then we're gonna get this last finger in. I'm gonna move this one up slightly. They don't have to be exact. I just want to make sure that they look consistent between fingers. And you really can only tell by just tumbling around it, seeing if there's a glaring error. Doesn't seem to be, so that's good. So I go back to my create joint tool, hold the V key, click. I'm gonna make another one here. Here, and finally at this point. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same process of moving these down and positioning them correctly. So hold the D key, like I said, move it down to where it's kind of in the center. This one, let's move it this way. This one we're going to move in to be kind of in the center. Sometimes it helps to just get right into it. Literally. Okay, so we're about there. Cool. Alright, so now we have his fingers. Now we need to connect him to his hand joint. So, let's see, that's joint 14 in this instance. So I'm going to take this joint group, middle mouse click and drag it. So now I should have something like that. Take this finger joint group and middle mouse click and drag it onto the hand joint, like that. Take this joint group of finger, middle mouse click and drag it onto the hand joint like that. So now his hand joint should look like that. To where, we turn off wireframe unshaded. So now his hand joint should have a connection to each of his fingers. Like that. And finally, what we want to do is connect his wrist with his hand controller. So let's find his wrist. That's joint 8 here. So I'm going to take his hand group and middle mouse click and drag it to parent it to joint 8. No, wait, not joint 8. Wait, was it joint 8? Yeah, joint 8. Oh, not joint 8, excuse me. Joint 10, yeah. So I paired it to joint 10, like that. So now I should have an arrow going from his wrist to his hand, like that. Okay. Lastly, on this character's joints, we're going to do his feet. So on his feet, we have 2 toes and a ball heel. And so we could take his ankle here, kind of move it up slightly, create new joints. I'm going to select his ankle joint here. And if I go to let's see what view would be best. Probably I think this view would be better. Okay. Yeah. So let's do his ankle. So somewhere around here. And then somewhere around here. So then I have this one. I'm going to move this one closer to the back of his foot here. So around there. I'm going to take his foot controller, kind of move it here-ish. Right, yeah. Sort of. Let's move it over to where it lines up correctly. Okay, and then I'm also going to create probably 2 more joints per toe. So I'm going to go select this joint, create joints, reselect it, create a joint here, and create a joint in the center of his foot, somewhere around there. So now from this perspective, you can see I have something like that. So if we turn on wireframe, this is actually the center. So I'm going to hold the V key and click and drag it to that point. This one, I'm going to center it onto his foot here. Hold the D key, and center it, so around there. So now I should have something like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this toe. So, still in the middle, yeah. You want to be in the middle. Okay, and then for this toe, create joint, select joint. Yeah, select this joint, create a joint here, and create a joint in the center of his foot, somewhere around there. This joint, we're going to move it to be back in the center, somewhere in there. I created a new joint. Somewhere there. Yeah, somewhere right there. Okay, so now this is what his toe should look like, his feet. Okay, cool. So now we have half of his body done correctly. And so let's go ahead and start naming these joints. So joint 1, this joint, is your root So I'm going to call this rig underscore root. This joint, I'm going to call it rig underscore COG for center of gravity. This joint is rig underscore spine 01. Well, that was that one example. For this example, we're gonna do it this way. Yeah, it's just
That's a rig underscore spine 1.
yes.
What's the second one?
COG. This one is gonna be rig underscore spine 2. It's gonna be rig underscore spine 3. This one is going to be his neck. And this one is going to be his head. Moving over, we have his shoulder here. So I'm going to call this one rig underscore shoulder underscore L for left. This one I'm going to call rig underscore elbow left.
But is this right?
You're right. Thank you, Maya. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
What?
Because you could basically do the same thing. Well, I'll show you. Okay. So then joint 10 is rig underscore wrist underscore right. This is his rig underscore hand right. This is correct. Rig thumb 01 right. This is rig underscore thumb 02 right. Let's copy this. This is rig underscore thumb 3 right. And this last one we're going to call J&T thumb 04 right. Right, yeah. So pointer, ring, and pinky. Let's do that. Let's skip the middle finger. Okay, so. Right, yeah. So rig underscore index 01 right. Rig underscore index 02 right. Let's copy that. Index 3. And this one is J&T. Index 04. Right. Okay, and then for the next group here, we'll do rig underscore ring 01 right. Let's copy that. 02, 03, and 04, and J&T. Okay, and then this one is a pinky, so rig underscore pinky 01 right. This one is rig underscore pinky 02 right. This one is 03 right for Pinky. And this one finally, like we're familiar with by now, is JNT Pinky 04 right. Okay. So now let's do his leg. So this one is his hip. So rig underscore hip 01 or hip right. This one is rig underscore knee right. Then we have his, what would you call this? It's not his ankle. Bend, maybe? Let's call it, yeah, rig underscore bend right. Oh yeah, we could call this one the ankle. Instead of bend, let's call this one ankle. And then for this one, we're gonna call it the heel. Is it A? No, it's E-E-L. Okay, right?
Heel?
Yeah.
H-E-L, yeah.
Yeah. This one is gonna be his foot. So rig underscore foot right. This is gonna be his toe 1. So let's say yeah, he's got 2 toes. Rig underscore toe small, maybe? Right? Toe small 01. This one's going to be J and T. Toe small 02 right. Yeah, this one's going to be rig underscore toe big 01 right. And this one's going to be J and T. Oh, got deleted. Okay. Yeah, this one's going to be J and T, toe big 02 right. Alright, so our joints should be named correctly. So what we want to do next is let's select our shoulder. Yeah, let's mirror it. So we're going to mirror across the, if you look down here, you see the Z and the Y. Z is facing forward and Y is facing up. If you look here as well, the blue is facing forward and the green is facing up. That's Z and Y. So we want to mirror it across the Z and Y axis. So if we go to skeleton, mirror joints, options panel, we'll choose the Y and Z mirror across axis. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to search for underscore right, and we're going to replace with underscore L for left. Okay, and then we're going to hit mirror. And what that's going to do is going to mirror his hand or his arm over to the other side. And it's also going to rename those joints and do all the things. Yeah. So then let's do the same thing for his hip. So we'll select his hip. We go skeleton, mirror joints. Same settings. Should work. We'll hit mirror, and there we go. So now our alien dude is completely skeletonified.